All right, my friends. We're back with one of my somebody that I probably ran into less than a handful of times in the last like 10 years, but that I've admired peripherally. And then when you have that connection with another human, you're never not friends, and that's what's fucking dope. So I want to introduce all of you guys to my good friend Domenica. Hello.
Hello, everybody. I'm happy to be here. It's sad that I don't have my Jay sightings. I always like when I'd run into you. It felt like a little good luck charm. I'm like, oh, I saw Jay today.
I know, so nice. And
Yeah.
then like it's funny because we were just talking about, we're talking about your your husband. That when I met you, how long ago was that? How much
That
time
was
do you
like
have?
10 years ago.
10 years
That was
ago.
like 10
Okay,
years ago.
so 10
Yeah.
years ago.
I did not have a husband then.
Right, and what you're describing now as like, where, okay, you have somebody who's not going to punch holes in the wall,
No.
who's not going to, yell outside your window at 4 a.m, come downstairs, like, well, I'm here, open the door, like none of that.
No,
like,
no.
did you ever imagine when you got sober that you would be even evolved enough to recognize that or be like worth that? Like,
No, no way. No, I had trash taste for a very long time in full-blown sobriety, working the steps, going to meetings, being like, oh, you look so mean. I really hope you pay attention to me.
Oh my God, yeah.
You look like you'll make me feel terrible all the time and make me sick. I hope you call me back. And no, and it was funny. I remember I met this woman who's a bit older than me and had a bit more time than me. And she was Scottish, and I wish I could do a Scottish accent because she said it to me with her like heavy Scottish accent. It was so great. And she was like, Domenica, you don't even know what a good man is.
Oh my God.
And I when she said that, I was like, no, you're right. I have no idea. She was like, you don't even know if you saw it. You wouldn't even. And she was right. And then I remember when I first saw him get off his bike the first time we hung out, I was like, oh, that's a good man. I just knew it right away. I was like, that's what a good man is. But it took me, 7, 8 years, maybe more, to see that, to be able to figure that out.
Right, or even maybe to recognize that, or that long for you to understand that you didn't know, and to accept that you didn't know.
I didn't
because
know.
I was,
I didn't know. Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of, you grow up, in recovery. You literally grow up. So.
Yeah.
It's hard to really put your finger on it, but you think to yourself, well, I'm making these like incremental steps forward in my life. It's like all of a sudden, I'm gonna pay some of these bills on time.
Right.
Some of them, like, let's not get crazy. So I remember like I used to think that, I was a young person when I came in. I was like 24, and I used to believe like, oh, if I don't. Almost like if I don't open this envelope, I don't have to pay this bill.
Right.
Like, it was just like so much fear.
That's such alcoholic logic.
Yeah, you just think to yourself like, look, things will take care of themselves. And then somehow, I'll land on my feet, or somebody or something will come save me, and then whatever. And then, but I think where the corner turns and is like, we learn how to have like relationships with each other.
Yeah.
That are real.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you meet somebody and be like, oh, well, I've been practicing this shit.
I've been practicing this. Yeah, I've been working this out. Yeah, no, it's and for me, like when, I'm sure it was for you when I first got sober, every single area of my life was such an atomic shit show. It was all like, I needed to relearn how to do every single thing, not just relationships. And, so maybe like I'd have a lot of progress in this area of my life, or maybe things with my family I'd figure out, or things in my career I'd figure out, but like, or friendships came slowly and I figured friendships out. And then, but like just the romantic relationship thing, it took me a long time, man. It took me a long time. And then also.
Were you like hiding in like your career?
I was.
Or like.
No, I couldn't catch a date, man.
Is that a joke?
I'm not joking.
Oh my God.
I moved to Brooklyn because I was in Boston. And the dating scene was so sad that I was starting to get like really, really low self-esteem. I was like, maybe I'm horrible. And then I was like, no, I need to move to New York. I need a bigger ocean. I'm in a small pond.
A bigger pond. Yeah.
I need the ocean. I don't do well in this small pond. And so I came to New York, and then, this amazing thing happened is actually I got a lot of sober girlfriends, and I just sort of hung with them, and we were all desperately looking for love in all the wrong places.
Oh my God.
And you remember that's when I met you, but we had each other, and like I was growing in that way. I was learning how to have female friendships, which I didn't know how to do that either.
Yeah.
And I think so. I had like these like years of like not self-imposed celibacy when I just was hanging out with my girls, having a really good time, and wishing I had a partner, but it just didn't happen. Which is probably a good thing because I was a disaster.
Yeah.
And because when I did date someone, I would accept any kind of shit they threw at me and be like, and be grateful for it.
Yeah, were you throwing shit too, or you're just like this angel now? All of a sudden, look at me, I'm sober.
My part is that like I'm too wonderful and that like I'm too accepting and like that's my only problem. No, I also needed Al-Anon like more than like it was insane.
Right. Explain to people what Al-Anon is if they don't know.
Al-Anon.
Look at that deep breath. Here we go.
Yeah, Al-Anon sucks so hard, but it's also amazing and life-changing and life-saving. So Al-Anon the theory is that alcoholics are crazy. But if you love an alcoholic, and especially if you live with an alcoholic, or if you grow up with alcoholics, or if you partner up with an alcoholic, you will eventually become as sick, if not sicker than they are in your own way, just dealing with their bullshit. And that it's its own thing. It's its own mental illness. It's its own disease, whatever you want to call it. And Al-Anon is the 12-step program for those people who have just been driven absolutely crazy by the alcoholics in their life, or the drug addicts in their life, or just the other untreated people in their life, people with no recovery in their life, and
yeah, but that's like everybody.
No, I was just saying to a friend, I wish that like you could have court ordered Al-Anon. You know what I mean? Like the way you get in a drunk driving accident and they'll court order you to go to meetings. I'm like, there's some people who are so crazy, but in this low key way that I'm like, I wish we could like legally force them to go to Al-Anon because I tell people, so I say,
listen, you can, and this is just, because here's the thing. Obviously, when you're in active addiction, which is really just active self is really what it is. And it's just everything is about you, and you're so selfish that if you wrote it down on paper, you would think we need to be institutionalized and we're sociopaths and all these other things. And we can't help ourselves. But like, I tell people all the time, like, you can just use me as your qualifier if you know me. Yeah. And because we've been broken down to those levels, like we end up needing to acquire these skills that initially are very unpalatable. Yeah. You're like, what do you mean? I got to tell you the truth like all the time?
Every single time?
Like all the time.
And then I have to say I'm sorry?
Yeah. And eventually I have to mean it. Oh,
no. And then the worst. And then I have to change my behavior because at a certain point, I'm sorry. Even is not enough. I'm like, then I have to do it differently. I hate that one. I
know. And then what happens is, then there's always another level where, okay, now, oh my God, I have to recognize myself in somebody else and be like, you mean there are other humans, like not just me, like there are other people. And, I was talking about this like at another time where it's like, okay, like I have friends, like I use these two hemispheres. And I got this idea from somebody else, like everything else in my life. So, whatever, it's not copyrighted. So I have friends that live in like Magistan and friends that live in Wokistan. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And it's just like, like how can I...
Yeah, those are two hemispheres.
Right. But how can I see, okay, my friends that are in Magistan, right? Like, they live in their world is different than mine. Yeah. But, like this person is also a human being. Yeah. And if they lived in my world, maybe they'd think a little bit like me. Maybe I'd think a little bit like them. I don't know. Yeah. But like, for me to be like, no, they're stupid, or no, the other people are too sensitive, or they're stupid. Like, to let go of without recovery, that is not possible for me to look at other people like that.
It's impossible to negotiate that without recovery. I do not possess the skills to do that without like a whole cult of people telling me just be kind, listen, don't, you know what I mean? Like, who are you to change somebody, you know, look at your, and always, I think the miracle of it all is like, we're so selfish, all we think about ourselves, but that's actually the way through. It's like, look at yourself. Like, what are you doing? Like, before you judge someone, before you decide, you know, to try to teach them a new way to be, you know, before you try to run their lives for them, look at yourself. What are you doing? Like, what are you doing to take care of you? What are you doing to help the world? What are you doing to help the people around you? And like,
what are you doing to help them?
Yeah.
Are you being a dick?
Right,
like, I'm sorry, you don't know all the states and capitals.
Right, right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
And so like start there, and then like when you're good there, then you will attract who needs your help without having to go around like pushing around for it, you know, trying to make
No, and it's such like an evolutionary process. So like,
yeah.
you know, but without those tools, and I mean that's a very extreme example, but it's a real life example. Yeah. Look, we just came out of holiday season. Like
a lot of people went through that. A lot of people went through that at Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Totally. But you know, I think it's also, you know, how can we recognize the humanity in other people? And the only way to do that is to get outside of yourself.
Yeah.
And just say like, okay, like I always say, second step, like, is it possible that we just don't have, well, I don't know everything. Is that possible?
Yeah.
Like, and that is like that's like a 7-pound golf ball pill to swallow at times. But like when I call my sponsor, you know, and I call him and I'm like, blah, 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 blah. You know, he always says, okay, come on, tell me, what did they do to you? Tell me, what did they do to you? And then he says, okay. First thing he says to me every time says, number one, look who's talking.
Exactly.
I'm just like, oh
exactly.
my God, don't say that shit.
Exactly.
To me. But I need that, even if I'm quote unquote right in those situations, but it doesn't matter. Like we can't afford to be right.
We can't afford to be right.
I'm holding on to this energy, this negative energy. And what are you going to do? You're going to bring it back to your fucking motorcycle husband, like the beautiful man, like and your kids. That's what you're gonna do, You know, because the guy didn't. The guy didn't want to put the mask on in the coffee shop, and he started shouting. Then you're gonna come home and you're gonna.
Exactly, and it's
How do you not? And that's what I think, and that's why, you know, in a sense, like we're a little bit. I wouldn't say a leg ahead, but at least we have the tools where, because our life was on the line, you know, in my first year or third, whatever, if that person didn't text me back right away, I was fucking. Oh. They couldn't be sleeping. No, they
couldn't have their own life.
They
couldn't possibly be busy.
No way. They couldn't be using the bathroom. No, they had to be there when I needed them at that point but I was one of those people, and this is how a little bit at a time I unwind all of that stuff, you know, where I'm even able to start focusing on, okay, maybe it's not about me, and maybe I can have a career. Maybe I can have a conversation with one or both of my parents, you know, that's like, how can I help you?
How can I, Not
even
what are you doing for me? It's like, all right, what do you need?
What have you done to me? But no, how can I help you?
Right,
You know, like, because they're human too. You know, you want parents, but you get humans. Now that you're a parent, tell me.
Well, I'm a perfect parent. I'm doing it all right. So my kids... no, and
we're gonna stop the ball washing right now.
No, it's like I joke. I'm like, I don't need to save for college for my kids. I need to save for therapy. I'm like unless we have universal health care at one point. Like I'm like, oh, college. They don't need college. They're gonna need therapy, and that's what I'm gonna owe them. That's what I should be having a savings account for, is for their future therapists.
Did you even think you would become like, when I met you? You were with your gang of like.
Crazy sober
like if
ladies.
You guys saw like the 90s movie like Cry Baby, like those bad switchblade girls, like there was like 8 of them, and we were in a diner. It was New Year's Eve, and like we just came from like the Soho dance, and like I was talking to your sister on the phone. She wanted to quit smoking.
That's right.
It was so crazy, and like
oh my God,
we were like all these people, and I was like, dude, this number one. Nobody's trying to play footsie with each other. We're just like, we're just there eating, chilling.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I got to get out of here, man. These fucking girls are crazy.
So crazy.
So in those moments, and I remember like you were like, like this white dress on, and you were,
Yeah.
dude, you were like stark raving sober.
Stark raving sober. No, it's so funny because I remember when I first getting sober, I was like, all right, well, I guess that's the end of fun.
Right.
I guess I'll never laugh again. I guess I'll never have one of those wild nights. That's behind me, and that was not true. And one of, like you're talking about, like one of the greatest things I learned in sobriety and doing the steps is I am frequently wrong, and what a relief that is.
Right.
That what I think is going to happen is not anywhere close to what actually does happen. What I think is true, and that's the humbling that brings me back. When as you were saying with like all the MAGA stand people and all the people in this world that aren't doing what I want them to do, that is my humbling. Like I don't actually know. Like except to like it is possible that I don't have the answer.
Right.
And but yeah, so at that point in my life, I had no idea what I was doing. I was just having fun with my sober girlfriends, being stark raving insane without any chemicals whatsoever, having a really good time. And I'm glad that we scared you. That makes me so proud.
It was so funny.
So proud
I was just
that you're
like,
terrified of us.
I know. I was like, and me and my friends were crazy, but I was like, dude, these girls are crazy. And then like, over time, you start to see the severity of choices, right?
Yeah.
Because like
two of those girls at that diner are dead.
Yeah, they're no longer with us.
Yeah.
And you're just like, when you come into, you're like, these are my people. Yeah. And we're all here and we're all gonna make it. And that is not the case.
No, you should be so lucky to think that you have that. Yeah. Yeah.
And eventually I was talking about this with my friend the other day. I was like, eventually you learn to love the people that you hated when you came in. Like sometimes I still see people from across the room and I'm just like, for the first however many years, like I didn't like this person. Yeah. Now we give each other a head nod like, oh, you're still here, I'm still here. We're going to do it. It's so crazy.
Because it is really like, oh, we're still here. And that's because that's not a guarantee.
Not at all.
And then over time, you really have this love, the love and respect I have for the people that I have met that keep coming back one day at a time is so profound. It's so much bigger than family or friendship. And again, like the people that I don't necessarily like them, but I love them with my whole heart because I know where they've been. And I know what we've done just in sobriety, forget before.
Right. And we know like in the very like lowest common denominator way, we know what matters. Yeah. What matters is just like that that we all have a chance at redemption. Yeah. We all have a chance to everybody can evolve and everybody can be different. And like not the stupid gimmicky stuff like life is so short. But like, dude, like the government closed the coronavirus, the government, the whatever you want to listen, turned off the water. Yeah. And then just think about all of these arguments and all of these petty things that, maybe some of you had with other people that now are maybe not here or now are exasperated because now you're on the Facebook and now you're a virologist and now you're all of these things and you're swallowing all of the Fox News and the CNN and all of this stuff instead of just saying like, hey man, like if I am still walking and breathing and so are you, sometimes that's good enough. And how can we get past all that other shit? Because it's like, can you be friends with somebody that you don't agree with everything that they say,
Yeah, I mean, that's hard. I mean, like there's certain values I think are important. I don't want you close to me and my family and my life if we don't have certain values in common. And that's okay. We're allowed to select who's close to us and who's not.
You could be a bank robber, but you can't do this.
Yeah. No, like I have friends who've done some crazy stuff and I'm like, that's fine. As long as if you agree with me on this, and they do. And but I lost the thread.
It's okay. What are we talking about? Now we both lost the thread. Oh, can you be friends with somebody that you don't agree with 100%?
I learned in early sobriety, and it was like, and the simplicity of it is so beautiful and so profound in this way that I didn't appreciate for years. It was like, I remember because I got sober in Massachusetts and the suburbs in Massachusetts, which is a little.
What was that like?
I mean, we'll talk about that in a second. It sounds a little bit like where you grew up, where it's just like this like sort of working class area where the AA is really like bare bones, and they would just say, "Don't hurt another alcoholic. Just don't hurt another alcoholic." And it's so And then you start there. Like when you're counting days, when you're shaking, when you're a mess, you just learn to respect the people at the meeting, even if you disagree with them, even if they're whatever, you don't like them, whatever, you don't like the things they say, you don't relate to them. You learn don't hurt another alcoholic, and then slowly that seed grows to, oh, don't be a shithead to anybody.
Right.
And then
But that's where it starts.
But that's where it starts. It had to be that simple. I needed that instruction to be that simple. Like, okay, there are people at this meeting that I do not like. There are people at this meeting who politically, socially, whatever, just think things that I completely disagree with. But they wanted to kill themselves, and I wanted to kill myself. And I fundamentally do not want any of us to kill ourselves. Like, I could start there. I'm such an asshole. I had to start there. Like, oh, live and let live. Like, I had to really be literal about that. Like, okay, I guess they have a right to live if I have a right to live, because I'm an asshole too.
It's so crazy when you think about that. It literally almost cost you your life for you to be that willing to be a human.
Decent.
To be
decent. Not even to be nice, just to be decent.
Just to be decent. Like, okay, since my life is I'm going to die, so maybe I'll consider something else.
Yeah.
Like, but that's the nature of, that's the nature of not just this disease. Like, sometimes that's the nature of, like, the forces at will. Like, they want you to be that scared of, like, other people.
Yes.
You know? And then you're just like, dude, like, maybe you have a kid, maybe I have a kid, and maybe they play. Like, sometimes it's that simple. But if I'm, like, drawing lines in the sand that are just, like, unreasonable, then I ask myself, like, look who's talking.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
So how did you make your way from like Massachusetts, like down to like New York? Like, what was that story like?
Yeah, so I tried to get sober in Texas, in Austin, Texas.
Oh, well, good luck.
They have, listen, any town where there's good drinking, there's good AA.
I'm
you
sure.
know? And so there's good AA there, but I wasn't ready for it.
Right.
I was going to AA hoping to figure out like how I could drink.
Were you going?
Mm-hmm.
No,
I'd go. I'd get like I'd smoke a joint. I'd take a Xanax, and I'd go get on the bus, and I'd go to an AA meeting. And so I'd be like so high at the AA meeting, or like I'd stay sober. Like, I'd go once a week and I'd stay sober that one day, and I'd be like, okay, look at me, I did it that one day. And then I'd like white knuckle it the rest of the week. I didn't know you could go more than once. Right. I just kept trying.
How old were you?
I was in my late 20s. I think I was like 28, 29.
Right.
Maybe 30, I was like 29. And
that's like when the shades start going up, and you're like, dude, where the fuck am I?
Yeah. That's when the hangovers start getting like violent.
God.
And it was really, and it was hard. And then I was born and raised in the North Shore of Boston, and it was like this animal call to go back home, which is insane because I'm not close to my family. I have a problematic relationship with my family. My family there's no recovery in my family. There's a little recovery now with me and my brother, but nobody else has it. And so it wasn't like, oh, this is a safe place to land. It was like, oh, I'm going to ground zero of all of my traumas. It was like, I can't, it was like an animal that needs to go home. I need to go home.
Go to what you know, right?
I had nothing there. I didn't have a job there. I didn't have a place to live there. Like, living with my family was not something I was willing, I was gonna do. It was definitely not a good idea for me to do that. I was just like, I just need to go home. And what I needed, I didn't know it was like this force calling me. I needed the AA there because the AA there saved my life. The people there saved my life. And it was like,
the black hole where you came from, that you ran from.
That I ran from my whole life. That I'm still, to a certain extent, I'll be running from that place my whole life. Like, somewhere in my mind, I'm always running away from that place.
Yeah.
But it was like this, like, I had to like go, not to be super cheesy, but I had to like go into this chrysalis, like, and had to be home. I had to be like, I have to like wrap myself up in like all the dead skin cells of myself and like hide in this place and like turn into liquid and then be reformed again. Wow. And I needed to do that in this zip code, in this climate, in this latitude and longitude.
What was it like? Just
it was
surrendering to that humility. Like,
it was so painful. I didn't even care. Nice. You know, like it was, which is like
that's why it stuck.
No, that's why it worked. It's truly and they told me the gift of desperation, and for a long time I didn't understand what that meant. And then I was like, oh, that's what that was. Right. I was in so much pain, and I needed every single bit of that pain to be like, okay, all right, anything they tell me to do, I will do. And they didn't tell me to do anything crazy. They're just like, don't drink, come to a meeting.
Right.
don't be alone if you're scared. Like, you know, like pick up the phone. Like it was all basic stuff, but like they just very gently, don't hurt another alcoholic.
God.
And I was like, okay, I'll try that.
How long was the alcohol and drugs not working before those moments came?
I mean,
because it's magic in the beginning.
I would say like you know, people say they hit bottom, and I say I lived there for 5 years. So it was about 5 years of like of just the wreckage, the unmanageability, the like it was 5 years of like nothing. There was no one catastrophic event. There was no like, oh, I crashed my car and I woke up in the hospital. There was no I woke up in jail. There was nothing like that. But it was just like every same shit, different day, over and over and over
this
again.
This is my life.
This is my life. And and just feeling like shit all the time until I got to the point where I was like, all right, well, I either have to stop drinking or I have to kill myself because this is so painful.
Did you know that it was alcohol related, or did you?
I didn't for long. No, I had no idea. I had no idea. I had a clue. Like it was every February I would try to stop drinking. Because
for what, Valentine's Day?
No, just like I was like, oh, my liver. Oh, I shouldn't cleanse my liver. And I'd like get like God. And like I never did it though. I was lucky if I made it. I would never even make it 2 weeks. I would never even make it 2 weeks. I couldn't do it. It was miserable.
It's hard.
And I would just smoke a ton of pot and take a ton of Xanax to get through that 2 weeks. And then at a certain point that wouldn't work. And so so for about 5 years, the drinking wasn't working. All the pain it took away was not going away, and in fact, it was starting to get worse. And so I would drink more, and that wasn't working. And
you were running out of ideas.
I was running out of ideas, but like AA was like this like little bird in the background.
How did you even know about
it? This is so fucked up. My mom, my stepdad. He's dead now, he died of this disease, and it's really sad.
I'm sorry.
It's sad. No, it's so sad. This is what happens. Like, you know, like you might not die young. You might almost be worse. You might die old. You know, like, but not
suffering. Yeah,
it was a painful, awful death. He went to rehab like 4 or 5 times. It never worked. And then we would go to Al-Anon meetings. And my mom was a drug addict. My drug addict mom and I would go to Al-Anon meetings, and I was like a kid, and I was hearing all these women talk about their married sex lives, and I was like, I should not be hearing this stuff. Like, you know, like I was the only kid there. Like it was so inappropriate. And then my mom got the idea that her real problem, she was such a drug addict, but her real problem was food. She needed to lose weight. So she would go to OA meetings, and she would bring me to OA meetings. And so like, I just knew that there was this whole world of 12-step programs in church basements. I knew that. Like from a very young age, I knew that there's Al-Anon, there's OA. And I remember when I lived in Boston for a while, it was kind of starting to, that's when it was starting to not work for me anymore. And I would walk around, and it was like this thing. It was like AA was always on my periphery being like, hi, we're here when you're ready. I'd walk by, and I'd be like noon, and there'd be all these dudes smoking cigarettes with with leather jackets and tattoos and big burly beards, and I'd be like at a church at noon on a Tuesday. And I was like, what the fuck is that? And I was like, oh, that's probably an AA meeting. And I was like, good for them. And then I go to the liquor store and like stock up, so that way, like, you know, I didn't have to worry about what happened when the sun went down.
Are these the same people that years later saved your life?
And then years later, these are the same people that saved my life. And I didn't know, you know, like I had to go to Texas. I had to go to Montana. I had to go all around the country. And then
we call those geographics.
Yes, we do. Oh,
wherever you go, there you are.
That kept happening. It was so stupid. I kept thinking the new boyfriend would be different. The new apartment, it would be different. The new place, it would be different. And it was just like luckily the crash would happen sooner and sooner. Like the honeymoon periods got shorter and shorter of like, everything feels great and different. And then and eventually I was trying to get sober in Texas. It wasn't working. I was miserable. And then I was like, this like strong, like a magnet pulling me back to Boston. I was like, I have to go back home. And I went back home, and I started going to meetings back home. And it was like, you know, I've been going to meetings off and on for months and months and months. Like
a barfly in the rooms.
Yeah. And then I don't, you know, the people there were able to talk to me in a way I could hear. It was like they spoke a language I could hear.
Right.
And like, it was like suddenly things started to click. And I was
also, do you think in hindsight, after all of these, that you were ready? And
I think, well, it was not that I was ready.
It was everything.
It was everything.
Everything together. Like, all right, apparently this is my brood.
Right.
This is where I'm from.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm ready to come home.
Yeah, no, that's what it was. It was a confluence of like it was a perfect storm. It was like I'm in enough pain, I'm teachable. I've truly tried everything else.
Right.
And like and the failure of all of my efforts, like I couldn't pretend anymore that like, oh no, maybe this time it'll be different. I'm like, this is never different. And and truly the pain was so bad, and that like it was a combination of like I was ready as a student, and the teachers were happened to be there that I needed.
Wow. So what happened next?
You know, it was one of those. I still was relapsing, and it was embarrassing. You know, I get my 1 month coin, everyone clap, and I want to kill myself, and then I drink that weekend, and then because I really was still holding on to the idea like maybe I can just learn how to drink like a normal person. And I remember being at a meeting once where they said, I'm an alcoholic, I can drink over a ham sandwich. And I remember thinking, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I don't even like ham.
Right.
And then I was walking, it was winter, it was miserable, it was Boston, and I kept losing my gloves and getting a new pair of gloves. And that was like the biggest problem. I was so annoyed by that. Like I can't keep a track of one pair of gloves. This is the wreckage. Like I couldn't keep track of one pair of gloves, and I lost my glove. And I was like, "That's it. I'm gonna go drink because I lost my glove."
Yeah.
And then I fuck the ham. I lost my. I have real problems. I lost my 10th pair of gloves, and I went to a bar and I got drunk, and the bartender was so disgusted with me. He was like just rude to me. He was like, you're fucking pathetic. And I felt like shit because I was like,
why, this guy knew you or something?
No, it was a bar I'd never been to.
No
way.
way.
I was trying to go to different bars. So like, you know, I was playing that game.
Maybe they were spreading the word.
Right. And then I was walking home in the snow, and there were my fucking gloves. I found them, and I was like, oh, I drank
over nothing.
I drank over nothing. Oh my God, that's what they're talking about. That's what they meant. And it clicked for me, and I was like, oh, they're right. They're right. And I hated that so much, but I was in so much pain that I couldn't deny it because it was clear. Right. And I was in so much pain that I was like, okay, maybe if they're right about that, they're right about other things. And I was willing to try just a little bit. And that's what I always tell like my sponsees, you just need a little, you don't need a lot of willingness, just a little bit. Just a little
like,
bit.
Is it possible?
Is it possible? Like step 2, is it possible?
Yeah.
Is it possible that the way you think is insane, and that maybe something outside of you that will help you? Like it's not, maybe you're not the one to figure this out by yourself.
Right. So how did you leave from there? You say, okay, you dust yourself off, you start doing your stuff, and then you're like, I'm going to go to the big town. Like, how did you get to New York? I'd
had a little bit of success in my career, so I had money for the first time in my whole life.
Right.
I was like, oh, I have money. And I was single, and I kept going on these horrible dates. And I was like, it was really, Boston's so weird. Like all my friends were like men and women in their 60s, you know, like there was no one. And then whenever I met people my age, I couldn't make it work. And I was like, I'm just going to be sober, and that's okay. But I'm going to have my career, and that's great. I love my career, and I'm just going to be alone. And I was super lonely, and I just kept going on these terrible dates. And I was like, I dated this one guy. I didn't even like him. And then he dumped me. And I made a sober geographic, and I was so devastated that this guy that I didn't even like dumped me. I was so devastated that I was like, that's it.
How long were you sober when this happened?
I was like 3 years sober. Like
right.
it wasn't, I was new, but I wasn't like fresh off the boat. You know what I mean? Like I was like,
in hindsight, you know, you're still new.
Now I'm like, I was a baby. I was like, I have 3 years. What's going on? No. And so I was so devastated, and I was like so humiliated. I was like, all right, I have to move to New York. I have to move to New York. And again, it was just a magnet. It was kind of like, I have to go home. Mm-hmm. I just needed to go home. And I did. And it was the right place for me, but not forever. And then I was like, I have to go to New York. And within days of being in New York, I was like, it was just so clear to me, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Right.
This is where I was always supposed to be. You know, I'm glad I got sober in Boston. I learned how AA works in Boston. But I needed to then take that somewhere else. And that just became clear instantly, you know, and I got that crew of crazy bitches.
Yeah. Did you go in, when you came here, did you move into the city? Were you in Brooklyn right away?
I was in Brooklyn. I moved into Brooklyn, and I made more friends in the first 6 weeks of living in Brooklyn than I did in the whole 3 years I lived in Boston getting sober.
Right.
And it was just like, it was great. And it was so fun. And I just felt more like me here.
Right.
Like I could be sober and I could still be me.
Right.
I didn't, you know, and like though I didn't like that was a revelation. Like
Yeah, you don't want to be like the library
no,
60-year-old.
which is what I thought I
lady.
had to like. I was like, okay, I
Right.
guess that's gonna be my life. I was like, no, I can still be me and I can be sober, and these two parts can come together in New York. And
So how did you? So then you start to like change. Like this is for me, like, you know, like I went through this. I went through these steps of like I always say evolution.
yeah,
But where it's just like, okay, well, this thing is possible.
yeah,
And then all of a sudden, like, this other thing is possible, but this other shit is like not for me.
Right.
Meaning that, like, okay, maybe I can pay my bills on time. Maybe I can show up to work on time.
Yeah.
And I can not drink and I can do all of the quote unquote sober things.
Yeah.
But like the picket fence and the other, the love.
yeah.
The love is not for me.
Not for
I
me.
mean, I'm trying
Yeah.
and I'm giving people like the best first 6 months of their life. You know, but then I'm like, you know, I'm lighting them on fire with my 11-page texts.
Yeah.
Like, how dare you not, blah, blah, blah. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
all of that. And then plus I remember, you know, I met this girl who I enjoyed so much, man. She's so awesome. She used to go to meetings over here. I don't know where she lives now. And she used to just say, Jerry, you just have a bad picker.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that same magnet
Yeah.
that is making you love everybody in the rooms because of the crazy.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time.
Yeah.
And, you know, there are people who come into the rooms and they're already married and they already have the home.
Right.
They already have everything.
Right.
And then they're like, you know, they just have to learn how to behave.
Yeah.
But like, I think for people like us,
Yeah.
that like it goes from this is possible, oh, this is possible. I'm gonna do this in my career. I'm gonna do this in my career. Maybe I'm gonna change careers. But then there's a switch that goes that's like, oh, please don't tell me that all things are possible.
It's too much. It's
yeah,
too much.
because there has to be
Yeah.
some stuff that's like, no, that's not.
No.
How can I separate myself
Right.
from like everybody? You mean I can be happy?
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
No, I can be content.
Yeah.
Like that was crazy because happy is like a little scary for me still, but like content, like everything can be okay. Everything can be calm and peaceful, and the space within that is actually magical. Where like what can happen in that?
Right.
I never knew I even wanted that.
Yeah, I think sometimes that, you know, we're scared of, you know, we're scared to not have any fires to put out.
Yeah.
And even if it's like mentally, where you're just like, I need somebody to hate. I need somebody to judge. I need somebody
Yes.
I need that because
Yeah.
it gives me meaning instead of like, you know.
And it distracts me from my ultimate project, which is becoming the person I'm supposed to be for this world.
Right. Like, how can I be a good example to my kids?
Yeah.
You know, am I going to be that, you know, the guy, like, when they see me, like, fighting on the computer, they know it's about one of two things. It's either about, like, boxing or, I don't know, about, like, carpet cleaning or something. It's not about, like, any of these other things. It's about, like, things that, like, that don't really matter. Like, somebody's going to tell me, oh, well, Mike Tyson, blah, 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 you know, and then I go crazy on them.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, that you could turn into somebody's mom.
Yeah.
Somebody like you who...
Well, I did that by accident. but-
Right, but, well, here we are,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
like, but, you know, where you're saying to yourself, like, I have a drug addict mom, alcoholic dad.
Yeah.
Mom's shuffling me around to these meetings.
Right.
We're throwing a buck in a basket and getting a cup full of crazy
Yeah.
everywhere we
Yeah.
go. And then now, at what point does it like dawn on you that, oh man, I'm going to be somebody's mother? And
Yeah.
then that's like a lot of accountability
Yeah.
now you have all these things. Well, I'm not going to be like that because my mom was fucking
Right.
like that, and
Right.
she'll never be in Boston because,
Yeah.
like, you know, you have all these things that maybe you weren't cracked open all the way
Yeah.
until you got somebody else that's like, hey, you know,
Yeah.
here I am.
Yeah, no, I mean, I hate to say this because it's a complicated message. I would never want someone to think, oh, have a baby and that will fix you, or like, but
Right.
or oh, you don't have self-esteem, have a child. And that, but like for
There's
me,
people who believe that
there are
anyway.
people who believe that. I know. And so
Anyway,
if you're
don't-
listening, especially if you're a young woman, please, please, please know that that's not the message. Do
Right.
not take that away from this. But for me, and also I wasn't young. I was in my 30s when this happened. I got
Right.
pregnant by accident from a short-term relationship that was not meant to be long-term at all. And I had this baby as a single mom, and suddenly I had to love myself because I loved this kid so much, and I had to love myself on this whole new level because I'm like, I want him to know that he's safe, and I got this, like, and on showing up for this kid in the way that no one showed up for me when I was a kid,
Right.
giving him a consistent bedtime routine, a peaceful, where you go to bed at the same time every night. We read stories.
That's like a luxury. People don't know.
No, people don't know like that. Like you're gonna eat dinner, and you're gonna take a bath, and we're gonna read stories, and we're gonna go to bed, and like I'm not gonna light your bed on fire with my cigarette because I'm nodding off on heroin. Like you know what I mean? Like you're never even gonna know that fear.
Did you know that you were even capable of this love before?
No clue. No. It exploded out of me, and it's like you were saying. It's like, okay, this is possible. Maybe this is possible, and that's this very slow growth of that seed of like, okay, I can show up at work on time. I can pay my bills on time. Maybe this other thing. Maybe I could have this career. Maybe I could do this with my life. Like that happened to me. Like, oh, I keep showing up for this baby. Day after day after day, meeting his needs, taking care of him, making him safe, making him know he's loved, guiding him through all of his little developmental stages. And all of a sudden I was like, oh shit, I can do this. I can do this. I have the love in me to do this. Wow. I have the self-esteem. It gave me the self-esteem. I was like, I am not that I'm a good person, but I'm like, I'm a decent person.
You're
and
capable.
I'm a capable person. I'm a trustworthy person. And then also sponsorship helped me with that too. Where like I have these women who cry and they tell me the most vulnerable things in their lives, the scariest things in their lives, their biggest secrets, and they trust me and they look at me, and if I tell them something, they believe me. They're like, okay. And I was like, and that gave me self-esteem. It was that stupid thing, like esteemable acts will give you self-esteem. And for me, having a kid and having sponsees were the esteemable acts I needed to do years into sobriety, like 5 years into sobriety, to give me the self-esteem to be the person that could then later have a relationship with a partner.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the good thing
I had to do it backwards. I'm an alcoholic. I can't do it the right way. I had to do it backwards.
Right. But I think also that, you know, initially, you know, when people ask you to sponsor them, you're like, of course I'll sponsor you.
Right.
Fuck, you don't know who I am? Like, you know, but then like after some time, I remember, like I said it, you know, I used to say, it's like I didn't have any business sponsoring anybody for the first like 5 years of my sobriety.
Truly, yeah.
I mean, but what I did do, and that's why 90% of them never picked up, and incrementally all of our lives got better, is that I just took them through the process, and I took them through the book. I took them through the steps, and I gave them some of those tools. And also, I think I provided that comfort where they're just like, dude, I know that I can do anything today with my day, and I can call my sponsor and just tell him what I did, even if it's from the highest highs to the lowest lows, and he's going to listen to me.
Yeah. And care.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that somebody looked for me for that.
No, it's mind-blowing. No, I know that someone thought that I was the person that was safe and trustworthy to guide them through the highs and the lows of their lives.
Right.
Like blew my mind, and it changed me.
Yeah, because like the bartender thought you were a fucking loser.
No, I was pathetic. He was like,
what did he call you? Said you were pathetic.
No, he didn't say. No, he wouldn't speak to me because I went into this bar being like, because like I had this like, it was like this cheesy hope every time I went to a bar. I was like, this is the bar that's going to change my life. I'm going to meet my friends. I'm going to meet the bartender who's going to be my therapist, best friends, like guru.
Yeah, it's going to be like a Friends
something
sitcom.
It's going to
show.
be like some sitcom show where we're only like drunk, where I go and like and this bartender, he was just like, and it was like noon, it was early. and I ordered, and I did what I always do is I ordered a glass of wine because I don't like wine, so I'm not an alcoholic if I drink something I don't like.
Right.
That was part of my thinking. And
wine is pretty fancy at noon.
I mean, but I ordered the cheap wine because I don't know about wine, so I don't know how to order good wine. I'm just like, I'll have a red because I know there's 2 colors, and he pours the wine and he just like looked disgusted with me, like, what are you doing here? And I kept trying to engage him in conversation, and he was just like, he wouldn't talk to me, and then I was like, okay,
yeah, maybe he could see, he could see like, I think for me, towards the end for me, and this is also what you're describing, is that like out of nowhere, like I started to feel other people's pity. Yeah. That I didn't, that it must have been there the whole time.
The whole time, but I never saw it.
But I never felt it. Yeah. Like, I remember at the very end, it was just
it's so gross.
Dude, like this guy's giving me a beer because he feels bad for me. He's like sliding it across at the gas station at 6 a.m. On Main Street in Spring Valley where I'm from. And he's just like, here, just take this and go home. And the beginning of that night, which was 2 nights before, I had all the right jokes and everything. Yep. And then it turns into that. And like, you can't even shake that feeling when you feel that. And, that was like the start of, that's part of the story. Yeah. That there are people out there, that they see you. Yeah.
No, my version of that is crying in the bar. And like, because like I either would pass out or I'd cry for no reason. And then being that person that people just sort of like, they don't make eye contact because I'm so like, and I was, like that happened a million times.
It's like a crazy person on a train.
Exactly. But it's something I'm like, I'm that person that people are trying to like, don't look at her, don't look at her, don't look at her. She's crying. She's crazy. Like she's a mess. She's she's this drunk mess. And I was like, that's who I am. That's how they see me because it's true.
Right. And now you're like somebody's mom.
I'm 2 people's mom.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you have these kids. And
who've never seen me drunk, who don't know what it means.
How do you prepare yourself for what you know is coming, which is that like they're gonna look at you one day and be like, Mom, I don't believe a word you say, and I'm gonna cut school and I'm gonna do whatever. Like,
that's coming. That my kids, they're very bright.
Not even knowing that, like, it almost cost us our life to even become this person that is actually trying to do something for you. And then it's like the ultimate betrayal.
Because that's your story. I know. I'll be calling you. Yeah. I'll be calling you to talk me off the ledge because that is going to happen because I have 2 little punks. Yeah. And I love them and they're so bright and they're so creative and they're so funny, but they're punks. Yeah. Like and they're not people pleasers and I know that's coming.
Part of the DNA probably.
How dare you suggest? Breeding would suggest that maybe it came from somewhere, it came from the home. But and that's coming where I'm going to be like, are you fucking kidding me? Like I have given you this life of stability, and now you're going to like go do your own thing and be crazy and. One day at a time. I know what to do with that though. Like it's what I've done with it's what I did when he was 2 and I didn't know what to do. It's what I did when he with potty training and I was losing my mind. It's what I did when I had to like figure out like how do I send my kid to school, and I will do what I have done for everything in my life, but especially everything I do with parenting is I will bring that to a meeting, and chances are there will be a sober alcoholic mom or dad or parent who has been through it, who will walk me through this, and you're one of them. I'll be like, sure. I have teenagers now, Jay, what do I do with that?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is,
I have teenagers who are worse than me. What do I do with that? Or just like me.
Dude, by the time these kids are older, they're going to be, I don't know, they're going to be plugging themselves into something, and that's how they're going to get high.
Getting drunk VR. Like, I don't, which maybe is safer. Like, it's like, but
I don't know. They'll be like vegan mushrooms or something. Like, who knows? Some crazy
that
stuff.
we haven't even thought of.
Yeah. No, I know. Like, I laugh at people all the time because, like, like one of my, like, I've been in AA a long time. Like I tell people that, and it's the truth, like the last time I drank, there was only vodka-flavored vodka.
Right.
Like,
So there's all this new booze that I've never even tried.
It's all crazy. Yeah. But like the truth is that what AA really is and what recovery is that it's a community, and it's not about, it's about, okay, if we don't learn how to live comfortably relatively, then the drink is always going to be an option. And once you take that first drink, it's over. Yeah. But like, so it's about how do you live? It's a design for living. So you come to a meeting and then you share about what's going on in your life.
Yeah.
You say, listen, like, I don't know how to go on this interview.
Right.
I don't know how to write this book or how to
Right.
start this show. Like,
Yeah.
how do I,
Yeah.
like, how do I tell somebody no?
Right.
How do I say no to, like,
Yeah.
you know, how do I say no to my kid? Like, how do I do these things without, you know, and then without all of these, like, because I can pull out my list, like, oh, you don't know what I have to do to even be here. I got to
Right.
go to meetings. I got to pray. I got to meditate.
Right.
I got to do all these things to show up to, I've shown up when I was active because my son is way old. I shown up to parent teacher night for him with cocaine hanging out of my nose,
Yeah.
you know, and like, and I got up in the in the middle of the parent teacher night because I was so uncomfortable being there because everybody else was an adult and I was just so wild. I got up, I said, in case you didn't know, my kid's the good looking one, and I just stormed out of the room.
Christ, of course
Like, you know, yeah, he's like a 6-year-old kid, and this is what I do. And like,
Yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't call it like CPS or ACS or whatever. But like, am I allowing them to go through their own process?
Yeah, this is where Al-Anon is really helpful, actually.
Yeah.
Which I hate. I hate it, but I love it. It's so, but yeah, no, absolutely. It's that we have to let them make their own mistakes. What I have learned, and I learned this in AA, and it's reinforced in therapy, outside help, which is what kids want, what I ultimately want. And I don't know that this is what I want. Because what I think I want is relief, make it go away. And that's why I drank. Because drinking made it go away. Drinking made me feel better until it stopped, and then until alcohol.
Drinking made the moment go because you couldn't even handle being in the moment, even if it's good.
Exactly.
Especially when it's
I
good.
would drink over happiness.
Yeah,
I would
drink over the glove.
I would drink over the glove. I would drink over any. I couldn't handle being joyful. I couldn't handle being excited. I couldn't handle being peaceful. I had alive. Just if I went to a museum and I saw this like dope ass painting, I'd need to drink because I couldn't handle like how powerful it was to see this dope ass painting. I'd be like, I gotta go to the museum bar.
If somebody called you smart,
I would have to slam a drink because it was just
like,
too
who
painful.
told you to say that? God, how dare you?
Right, and it was so painful. And so, okay, so what do I do with that? I was alone with that. I was alone with that. And what AA taught me, my first sponsor told me, she was like, we hold hands whenever we cross the street. And again, it said like super simple instructions that I needed that saved my life. And what she meant was like, you don't do anything alone. And and it took me a long time to realize, she's like, you don't have to do anything alone. And I did not understand that for a really long time. And now that I'm a parent with these two kids, some problem will come up. Whatever. We don't need to get in. I don't need to get into their problems. But like some problem will come up, and my desire is to fix it for them.
Right.
So I'm like,
you want to pacify their pain.
You're in pain. I can't handle that you're in pain because that hurts me.
And I can fix that. Look here. Push.
Right. Exactly. And I inevitably make it worse. And inevitably I'm making this kid doesn't know how to solve his own problems. And really what I've been discovering slowly, what just works better and will set him up for success in the future, I hope, is what I learned in AA is like, he doesn't need me to fix it for him. He needs me to be with him. So he's not alone with this problem. He doesn't need me to tell him what to do. He doesn't need me to tell him how to feel. Because my big thing is giving him perspective. He's 6. I'm like, well, if you look at it like this, or did you ever think about this? And he's like, shut up. I'm 6. What are you talking about? And you're making me feel crazy. He just needs me to be, he's scared. And he just needs me to hold his hand while he's scared until he's not scared anymore. And then that courageous kid will go do the thing he's scared of. And I've seen that work time and time again because that's what happened for me in AA. I was scared. No one in AA was going to say like, oh, this is how you do this. They're just going to hold my hand and be with me. And some people, and there is, the experience, strength, and hope, like, oh, this is how I responded when this happened to me, and that does help. But that's when you're older. That's older stuff. That's not kid stuff. And just do that. Like, you don't have to be alone with that. I'll be with you with that. And you'll figure that out on your own. And then when you're out in that world without me, you'll have that process in your little brain.
Yeah, it's like and to see them evolve into, like, because it all works until it doesn't work, and then it works again. Like, I remember, like, nothing, especially for, you have 2 boys, like, nothing will be louder in their head than kids on the playground.
Right.
Right. And then it's kids kids in the street, then it's everything. Like, I'm sure my parents gave me if you ask me to paint the picture of my life growing up, it's never going to be pretty. Yeah. But the truth is that's because, like, that's my perception.
Yeah.
my mom and my dad could not have been 100% wrong 100% of the time.
Right.
It's just not. It's not mathematically possible.
Right.
But like, so when my son went through those things where like he thought the things that I was saying were like bullshit, or like my other two kids, like I don't know anything.
Right.
And then I remember he was like maybe I don't know how old he was. Maybe he was 21 or something, and he sends me this huge like 3-page text, and he's like, "Dad, where was he? Oh, he was doing like a video shoot and at his college at the time in the city of Manhattan. He went to SVA and he was doing like this video shoot with these models and all these things, and things were clicking for him, and he was seeing how I was teaching him AA the whole time, and how he could handle these situations where he's like, he puts himself in a position where he's taking pictures of Ghostface Killer and he's not playing himself.
Yeah.
Where everybody else is swarming, he's just cool, and he's like, he knows how to move. And then when he gets his own place, like, you know, so he's doing these things, right? And he sends me this big text. He's like, now I see why you were the way that you was.
Oh.
And he's like, this is why I'm out here like winning right now.
How good was that?
Oh my God, dude, I wanted to like
frame that.
I wanted to wipe my ass and slap it on my face.
Yeah.
It was so good. I was like, oh my God, I was showing guys at the men's meeting at Greenwood. I was like, look.
It works.
No, yeah, but and the thing is just like everything else, it doesn't work right away.
No.
So you got to have this faith. Like, look, I know that these conversations help me become a better person.
Yeah.
And if I have these conversations with other people, whether they're my kids or not, eventually they will also maybe become better, or maybe they'll just be at ease.
Yeah.
And it won't be a surprise to him when something I remember he sent me a text when he was down in Texas. He was just like, now I know why we didn't have all the fancy juice when we were growing up. He's like, this shit is expensive.
Right.
Like the Ocean Spray that's like $4 for like nothing, and it's all sugar and like whatever. He's like, now I know why we didn't have it, because I was like, yeah, dude, it's either $4 for the Ocean Spray, or we take that $4 and we can spend it this way. Yeah. And now like whatever. I mean, as you know, and things are different now, but
I need to hear these payoff stories. Like eventually they'll know that I'm not just crazy.
Well, the thing is, it's like mom. You got to ask yourself, like, you know, if it happened for me where I was able to go from this critter to like this like critter with like wings when I met you, and now you're just like this. Yeah. You know, you got a husband, you have like a home.
I have a home. Yeah.
Not like, oh, this is where I live. No, like you have like a home. Like there's love in this home. Like I come into your place, you're like, dude, we got a washer and dryer. Yeah. We got this. The heat is on. Yeah. And like, you know, and it's nice. Yeah. And sometimes this is all that matters. That like I can never forget. Yeah. That. Yeah. Like those two girls at the table who didn't make it. No, I think about them all the time, and they wanted it. It's not about wanting it; they wanted it just as much as we did. Everybody wants it. Yeah, but it only works if you work it. Yeah, it only works. And this is why I tell my sponsees, like, you know, I love you if you drink, I love you if you stay sober, but you don't know if this relapse is going to be the one that kills you. You just never know, because I know that, you know, with our friend Erin. I know she thought she was coming back. I know she did. I know she did. I know her. She's like, I'm going to relapse a little bit and then I'm going to come back, because she'd done that before. She didn't know she wasn't coming back. And she was having such a tough time, man. I'd see her in the meetings and I knew she would, like, you know, it's hard to watch because you want to intervene. Yeah. But you can't intervene. No. I mean, you can, but like in what way? Like what was I going to do? Lock her somewhere and give her a bunch of money to pay all her bills, right? And like whatever, Because by the way, we had tried that. You know what I mean? Right. Like, because that's the thing. It was just like, you know, life is going to happen. The storms are going to come. Yeah. The storms are going to come, and you know, she was just in enough pain that she didn't want to deal with it. Yeah. You know, and that's like that's also part of life. So then I say to myself, like, do I, you know, I'd rather her be pain-free. Yeah. You know, even if that's not my way. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want her to be she's a funny ass, you know. So funny. Yeah. We can go through 4 pages of people who are like that. Yeah. Yeah. You know? Yeah. Yeah. But the truth is that, like, you know, if you're in pain and you're out there and you're a civilian or an alcoholic or a drug addict or not, just like, there is another way.
Yeah.
There is another way. And that way is not easy because it requires
It's so hard.
legitimacy. It
Yeah.
requires vulnerability. It requires you to maybe reach out and maybe join like a therapy group.
Yeah.
Or like I said, you can go to any Al-Anon meeting, or you can go to any 12-step meeting and you can just sit there. You don't
listen.
even have to say
Yep.
anything. You can use a fake name. You can do whatever.
Yeah.
Like, but you can have this life a little bit at a time if you like, where there's going to be some substance and there's going to be some love and there's going to be pain, but it's not going to be forever.
Yeah. And that's, trying to teach that to my kids and trying to teach that to myself, this pain that I feel right now, because that's a very alcoholic way of thinking. This is the rest of my life. Is this pain right now over this temporary thing?
It will
That's
never
why we drank.
end.
That's why
Yeah.
we drank. I was like, I can't stand this feeling, so I'm going to drink to make it go away, because the thought of waiting it out and waiting for exterior things to change, waiting for interior things in me to change, just waiting for the shift to come, whether it was spiritual, financial, circumstantial, it doesn't matter. Like, it was intolerable. I was like, no, I can't wait. I have to fix this. I have to change this now. And that's where all my problems started,
Yeah.
And that is, for me, like, the most spiritual part of this program is like, hang on. Just hang on. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how things are going to change.
And you got to keep the matches in the drawer.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to do anything constructive, right?
Right,
Like,
right.
you're not going when you're in those panic moments, whatever, you're not going to do anything that's going to help. All
Yeah.
you're going to do is like, oh, I got to go to what
Crazy
I know.
town.
I have a
Crazy town.
6-shooter of how to make it worse.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes, exactly.
I'm going and but at least, because then it'll be what I know temporarily.
Yep.
It'll be comfortable because I'm like, okay, I
Right.
know this. This is
Yeah.
chaos.
Yeah.
And then what happens?
Yeah.
Then you got some kids crying.
Yeah.
Then you got your husband looking at you like, dude, you fucking did what?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm
Exactly.
saying?
Exactly.
And then it's just,
Yeah.
and then everybody else matters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so tough. Anyway, look, we did an hour's. Incredible. Domenica, you got anything else you want to get off your chest before we leave?
No. It's just a treat to see you in real life,
my
because
God,
it's been so
so
long
good.
since I've just seen you in real life, and seeing you in real life on purpose is so nice.
I know. It's the
Yeah.
best. All right, everybody. Love you all. Have a great day. Peace.